The video on my phone was grainy, shot in the dim light of a nightclub, but the image was unmistakable. Jessica Miller, my fiancée, kissing another man. "Aren't you afraid he'll find out?" the man whispered. Jessica's eyes smoldered. That's what makes it exciting. A coldness washed over me as I slowly closed my phone. The man was her assistant, Leo Vance. They'd been inseparable lately, a fact that had led to more than one fight between Jessica and me. The woman who was once my gentle, loving fiancée had become a source of profound shame. So, at the annual Sterling Industries charity gala that evening, in front of the city's elite, I played the video on the main ballroom screen. Then I took the microphone and announced that the engagement between the Sterling and Miller families was officially terminated. A shocked silence fell over the Denver ballroom. Later, I overheard someone whisper, "That Ethan Sterling, he's got ice in his veins." 1. To spare me further grief, my parents agreed to my request to leave the country. I was on a plane the next day, heading to London to take over our company's European division. A few days later, Jessica Miller announced her engagement to Leo Vance. My best friend, Mark Peterson, sent me a text. "Jessica's something else. She had to threaten to kill herself to get her family to agree. Kept screaming about how true love is fearless." I stood in my high-rise office, looking out at the London skyline. The season was late fall, and a bleak, desolate mood hung over the city. But inside my chest, the fire of vengeance was just beginning to burn. 2. In 3 years, I grew our European market tenfold, cementing Sterling Industries as the undisputed leader in Denver's corporate world. On the day of my return, my parents threw a lavish welcome home party, inviting every major player in the city's business community. I was the center of attention, dressed in a bespoke Seville rose suit, listening to the endless stream of flattery and praise. For that moment, I was untouchable. Then the doors to the venue opened, and a couple walked in. A hush fell over the crowd. "Ich glanced over." It was Jessica Miller and Leo Vance. Mark leaned in close. Word is they never actually got married. Leo quit his job right after you left, and has been living off the Millers ever since. A real kept man. Yeah, I thought. But that kind of free ride is never smooth. Sometimes it's a real grind. Jessica wore a champagne-colored gown, her perfectly made-up face unable to hide the exhaustion in her eyes. She approached me cautiously, a bitter smile on her lips. "Ethan, you just left without a word. Couldn't find the time to call me once in 3 years. Our engagement was over, Jessica. It's better to keep our distance." I looked past her to Leo, a mocking smile playing on my lips. Leo's face darkened, looking as black as the bottom of a skillet. Jessica shook her head slightly. "Our families have been close for decades. Even if we can still be friends, can't we?" Her eyes held a flicker of hope, desperate for me to give her an out. After she cheated, my parents had cut all ties with the Millers, pulling funding from several major joint ventures. This talk of being close for decades was a joke. We've been estranged for 3 years. Since we pulled our capital, Miller Industries had been bleeding money, its value shrinking considerably. In contrast, Sterling Industries was several times stronger than before. The Millers' shrinking portfolio was no longer even on my parents' radar. Arthur Miller and his wife had never approved of Leo, and over the past 3 years, they'd taken out their frustrations on the couple. They'd even stripped Jessica of her VP title. Now, she was just a department manager, no longer important enough to have an assistant. I considered her question for a moment, then smiled. Friendship is about trust. Your heart, unfortunately, seems to wander. I can't risk getting hurt a second time. My friend around me chuckled, not bothering to hide their scorn. Jessica's face flushed red, then went pale. She clearly hadn't expected me to be so blunt. In these circles, people cared about appearances, about maintaining a dignified front. Too bad for her. I believe in an eye for an eye. Worrying about dignity only dulls your fangs. She remained silent for a long time, finally sighing after catching her father's eye. "I was wrong about what happened. I shouldn't have done it. I feigned ignorance." "I'm not sure what you're referring to, Ms. Miller." Ethan, can we speak privately?" "No, say it here." My tone was casual, unyielding. Jessica bit her lip, then motioned for Leo to step forward. "The truth is, I was drunk that night," she began, her voice strained. "Leo took advantage of me, and I made a mistake in a moment of confusion. I was going to confess everything to you, but Leo stopped me. He said. She glanced at Leo's anguished face and faltered. Her father, Arthur Miller, cleared his throat loudly. Jessica flinched and continued. He told me to hide it. He said no man could ever accept something like that, and I was so afraid of losing you, so I never got the chance to tell you the truth. What a joke. I had 7 or 8 other videos just like that one, all of her and Leo cheating behind my back. The moment I suspected something was going on 3 years ago, I'd had Mark investigate. They'd done everything short of moving in together. If Jessica hadn't been a willing participant, how would a junior assistant have dared to cross that line? And now she was throwing him completely under the bus. So much for true love is fearless. It seemed even that had an expiration date. I didn't call her out on it. Instead, I put on a look of impatience. Ms. Miller, that's all in the past. Why are you bringing it up now? What do you want? I just wanted to apologize. I hope you don't hate me. Suddenly, with a soft thud, Leo Vance dropped to his knees in front of me. Mr. Sterling, it was my fault. I took advantage of Jessica when she was vulnerable. His voice was earnest. I've had a crush on her for a long time, and I wasn't thinking straight that night. Don't blame her. It was all me. He actually looked like he was about to bow his head to the floor. I quickly stepped aside and had security pull him up. I'm not dead. What are you bowing for? That's bad luck. You're right, Mr. Sterling. My apologies. I wasn't thinking, Leo stammered, forcing a smile that couldn't hide the deep humiliation in his eyes. Arthur Miller seized the opportunity, striding over with a hearty laugh. Well, now that that's all cleared up, Ethan isn't the type to hold a grudge. Our family should definitely start spending more time together again. My parents remained non-committal, deferring to me. I waved a hand dismissively. We'll see. Let's just let things happen naturally. Jessica trembled slightly, as if she saw a glimmer of hope. I sneered internally. Sounds like things aren't going so well at home for you too. My parents were always repeating the old mantra, you're not getting any younger, and we want grandchildren. After months of nagging, I finally gave in and agreed to a blind date. When Veronica Thorne walked into the restaurant, my heart skipped a beat, and not in a good way. The phrase power bitch might as well have been invented for her. She had taken over Thorne Consolidated at a young age and built it into an empire nearly as formidable as my own. My father often praised her, calling her incredibly capable and decisive, the kind of woman who would be a true partner in marriage. I scratched my head, wondering if my parents had lost their minds setting me up with her. To be honest, I wasn't interested. For one simple reason. She was not what you'd call a looker. If Jessica was a 90 out of 100, Veronica wouldn't even pass. She had strong, thick eyebrows and large eyes, but her nose was flat and her nostrils were prominent. It was a ruggedly handsome look, I suppose. And while it's true that everyone looks the same with the lights off, I didn't have the courage to turn them off with Veronica. Sensing my lack of enthusiasm, Veronica took the lead, steering the conversation to business. The date quickly turned into a working dinner. By the end of it, we'd hammered out the details of a few joint ventures. At least the evening wasn't a total waste. After seeing Veronica off, I headed to the parking garage. As I approached my car, a figure darted out from the shadows, blocking my path. I jumped, startled, then looked up. It was Jessica. In a dim light, with her delicate features, she really was beautiful. Jessica, what the hell is wrong with you? I tried to walk around her, but she grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. What are you doing meeting with Veronica Thorne? I froze. Are you following me? She claimed she was just having dinner at the same restaurant and happened to see us. I was worried, so I came to see what was going on. I scoffed. Worried about what? That she'd poison my steak? What were you two doing? She pressed. It was a date. My parents are pushing me to get married. A shadow of pain crossed Jessica's face. She's so plain. She doesn't deserve you, Ethan. You deserve so much better. I pulled my hand away, stuck them in my pockets, and smirked. And who exactly is better? Her expression was a storm of conflicting emotions, the words caught in her throat. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the silence. Jessica? Ethan? What's going on? We both turned to see Leo Vance hurrying toward us, his eyes flashing with anger when he saw me. Mr. Sterling, the past is the past. You can't try to steal my fiancée. Leo, what are you talking about? I don't have a habit of picking up trash. I cut Jessica off, my voice laced with contempt. And I certainly don't fight over it. The words hit her like a physical blow. She staggered back. Ethan, how could you say that? I thought we were friends. I pointed at Leo. He's the one who started with the paranoid accusations. With that, Jessica and Leo started arguing, completely oblivious to anyone else in the garage. I didn't have time for their drama. I got in my car and drove away. The next day, I told Mark about it. He said Jessica and Leo's relationship had been toxic for a long time. Leo lacked not only ambition, but also the social graces to navigate their world. The initial thrill had worn off, and Jessica could no longer ignore his shortcomings. Life is long, and passion alone isn't enough to survive the daily grind. My guess? She regrets it. She wants you back, Mark said with a sly grin. You're not going soft on her, are you? I mean, she is way hotter than Veronica Thorne. I crumpled up a used tissue and tossed it into the trash can. What I wanted was revenge. Not her. A few days later, just as Mark predicted, Jessica found me. I was on the golf course, finalizing a deal. When she showed up, she was wearing a simple white skirt and a light blue t-shirt, an outfit that looked just like the one she wore when we first started dating in college. Those were the best of times for our family's relationship. Jessica and I were classmates, and our family ties naturally brought us closer. She was gorgeous and had a lot of guys chasing her. To fend them off, she asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend. I didn't mind. Who wouldn't want a beautiful girlfriend, even a fake one? But the lines blurred, and we fell for each other for real. Our parents were thrilled, and an official engagement soon followed. Jessica often dressed like this back then, and I'd always told her how much I loved it. The innocent, pure girl I thought I was dating. Looking back, I guess I just had a thing for the college sweetheart look. Seeing the distant look in my eyes, Jessica's face lit up. She started reminiscing about our relationship, trying to reignite the old flame. Remember that time I said I wanted ice cream, and you ran out to get it, no matter how late it was? And when the store was closed, you went home and made it yourself. She leaned in closer, and then you fed it to me. Her voice grew softer, more intimate. I cut through a nostalgic fantasy, my stomach turning. If you're asking if I ever loved you, I said flatly, the answer is yes. I did. Her eyes shone with a brilliant light. She gave a small, shy nod, like a young girl again. Then she opened her arms, moving to embrace me. By the time she looked up, I was 30 yards away, lining on my next shot. If you're going to be shy about it, I guess I'll have to be the one to fix what we broke, Jessica murmured to herself, her gaze intense. The next day, Arthur Miller invited me to their home for dinner. He wanted to invest in Sterling Industries' new electric vehicle project. My passion project, the most important initiative for the company this year. He offered $100 million and announced he was reinstating Jessica to her VP position. From now on, I'll let you two young people handle the business decisions. I have complete confidence in you both, he declared at the dinner table, praising my ambition and his daughter's talent. Jessica's mother chimed in, doing everything she could to push us back together. The message was clear. They thought we were the perfect match. Jessica was practically glowing, looking at me as if she were about to propose on the spot. I remained non-committal, swirling the wine in my glass, my eyes discreetly glancing at the man sitting in the corner. Leo Vance was visibly shaking with rage, but no one paid him any attention. He just sat there, looking like a scorned lover. The sweet, innocent boy toy he once was had been devoured by reality. He didn't belong in this world, and no amount of pretending could change that. Even if you marry into money, you need the cunning to survive. Leo had nothing. I left that night with a signed agreement for a $100 million investment, a deal that forced Leo to finally face reality. He had to start thinking about an exit strategy. With or without me in the picture, he was beginning to understand that Jessica would never truly be his. So, he started looking for comfort elsewhere. When I received the photos of his affair with a local socialite, all I could think was how pathetic he was. His great escape plan was just to latch onto another rich woman. At least with Jessica, he'd been the fiancé. With this married woman, he was nothing but a dirty little secret. What was the point? I sent the photos to the Millers anonymously. It didn't take long for Jessica to catch Leo in the act. The sound of her slapping him reportedly echoed through the hotel hallway that night. He returned home with a swollen face, only to be subjected to the Miller version of family justice. They had him beaten so badly he wouldn't be a man to anyone ever again. After that, Jessica's regret over her past choices deepened. She started calling me, pouring out her heart, telling me how much she'd missed me for 3 years. I knew I'd made a mistake the day you left, she'd weep into the phone. But I had to get engaged to Leo to protect my family's reputation. My heart was always with you, Ethan. I scoffed, remembering Mark's story about her threatening suicide, screaming about fearless true love. How quickly things change. Women, seeing her self-serving performance, the last ounce of pity I had for her evaporated. Now, I thought, I'm going to drag you to hell. During one of her calls, seeing my silence, Jessica suddenly appeared at my front door. She pushed past me and threw herself onto my sofa. She let her dress straps fall, revealing the smooth skin of her shoulders. Ethan, I never let Leo touch me. I'm still your Jessica. Take me, please, she whispered, her voice a seductive purr. She knew her strengths and was going all in to win me back. But my silence wasn't indecision. I kicked her off the sofa, then grabbed her by the hair and dragged her to the front door. Saw ever since you cheated, I've developed a bit of an aversion to women, so you'll just have to bear with me. Thump. I shoved her outside and slammed the door shut. A second later, she started screaming. Ethan, my dress is still in there. Throw my dress out, too. All right. I folded the designer dress neatly, then called for a courier. I yelled through the door, don't worry. I'm having it mailed back to your parents' house. A few minutes later, the screaming stopped. My parents came down from the second floor. If you still like her, my mother said hesitantly, we could accept her as a daughter-in-law. I knew they despised Jessica and were only saying it out of concern for me. I smiled. I feel nothing for her, but she owes me, and I intend to collect with interest. My father raised an eyebrow. So, you going to sleep with her once to get even? Get her pregnant and then dump her, my mother added. What is wrong with you two? I said, exasperated. I'm talking about taking over Miller Industries. Their faces lit up. My father gave me a thumbs up. Ambitious. I like it. My mother, however, changed the subject. In that case, I'm setting you up on 7 or 8 more dates. I groaned and waved my hands. After meeting Veronica Thorne, I've had enough. I'll let nature take its course. My mother pursed her lips. Please, it's a numbers game. How are you going to find me a beautiful daughter-in-law if you don't play the field? For the next few days, Jessica left me alone. I thought she'd finally gotten a message, but then Mark called with some big news. Jessica and Leo had gotten a marriage certificate. What? How is that possible? I asked, stunned. Mark's voice was full of amusement. It turned out Jessica was pregnant. She'd planned to get an abortion, but Leo had begged her, groveling and swearing he'd dedicate his life to her and the child. Apparently, a woman scorned is no match for a persistent man. Considering this was his last chance to ever be a father, she'd caved. Thinking about how she'd lied to my face just days ago, claiming she was clean, my contempt for her grew even stronger. So, she did have some real feelings for Leo after all. It was just a love born of desperation, a second choice after I'd rejected her. Predictably, even as the official son-in-law, Leo was still treated like dirt. In fact, Arthur and his wife were even crueler. Arthur forbade him from eating at the main dinner table, and his mother-in-law forced him to take etiquette lessons. Leo, she'd said, your job now is to stay home and raise the child. But you're not to tell anyone you are the father. Do you understand? Jessica, meanwhile, demanded absolute obedience, slapping him for the slightest perceived infraction. Under the combined assault of the 3 Millers, Leo's life became a living hell. I can't take it anymore. I'll go insane if this continues. Leo finally snapped, his fists clenched, his eyes bloodshot. You all forced me to do this. He contacted me directly and placed a USB drive on my desk. These are confidential files from Miller Industries. I know you want revenge. This is your chance. A slow smile spread across my face. And how do you know I want revenge? Leo shrugged. Come on, Mr. Sterling. We're both men. No one can stand being cheated on. I plugged the drive into my laptop. It was all there. Years of evidence of bribery, tax evasion, and fraudulent contracts. I was very pleased. Seeing my mood, he pressed on. What I did was wrong, and believe me, I'm paying for it now. In a way, I did you a favor. That bitch Jessica had never deserved you. I nodded. You're not wrong about that. How much do you want? $8 million, he said, his face clouding over. My life is over. I just want my parents back home to live comfortably. This money will be enough to send them abroad. Let them enjoy their final years. At least I can do that for them. Be a good son. My gaze dropped. You know what they say about not having kids to carry on the name? I don't have a choice, Leo said, hatred deepening in his eyes. They don't even treat me like a human being. Mr. Sterling, with this information, you can easily destroy them. I'll be waiting for the good news. He was right about one thing. No man can stand being cheated on. I would never forgive Jessica, and I would never forgive him either. I transferred $1 million to his account, telling him the rest would come after Miller Industries had collapsed. He left, looking disappointed but hopeful. The moment he was gone, I called Veronica Thorne. It's time. On the other end of the line, I could hear the excitement in her voice. She had been waiting for this day for a very long time. Veronica's father and Arthur Miller had been best friends and business partners when they were young. Years ago, Miller had been smuggling goods, and when customs agents closed in, he framed Veronica's father. Because her father was the legal representative of the company, he was the one who took the fall. Miller then testified against him, and Mr. Thorne was sentenced to 3 years in prison. By the time he was released, Miller had completely absorbed their joint company. Leveraging his new partnership with my family, he grew it into an empire. When Mr. Thorne confronted him, Miller had him thrown out, sneering, "Business is war. You were just too naive." Mr. Thorne swore revenge. He started a new company from scratch, but died before he could see his dream realized. Veronica took over, vowing to fulfill her father's wish. But the Miller-Sterling alliance was too powerful. All she could do was bide her time and grow her own strength, waiting for an opportunity. At one point, she'd even considered getting extensive plastic surgery and marrying into a more powerful family to help her, but surgeons advised against it. Minor tweaks were possible, they said, but what she needed was a whole new head, a risk she wasn't willing to take. Just as she was beginning to despair, the news broke. Jessica Miller had cheated on Ethan Sterling with her assistant. The engagement was off. Veronica was so ecstatic she couldn't sleep for a week. After years of planning, she finally saw her opening. That's why she had agreed to the blind date as soon as I returned to the country. She knew I wasn't attracted to her, but that one dinner forged an alliance that would finally bring her the justice she sought. After hanging up, I terminated the electric vehicle partnership with Miller Industries and froze their $100 million investment. Soon enough, Arthur Miller and Jessica stormed into my office. For the first time, I saw the true ugliness on Arthur's face. "Sterling, you break this contract and you'll owe me 10 times the amount in damages. We'll see you in court," he roared. He was betting I wouldn't risk the public scandal. At this critical fundraising stage for the EV project, any hint of bad faith on my part could be disastrous. "You're playing with fire, Ethan. You try to steal my money, and I'll ruin you." As he screamed, I calmly took a sip of my tea. Jessica, however, looked thoughtful. "Ethan," she said suddenly, "is this because I got married? Did it upset you? If you still want me, I can divorce Leo right now." A flicker of understanding lit up Arthur's eyes. "So that's what this is about. My boy, why didn't you just say so? No need for these games that make us both look bad." He laughed, clapping his hands together. "I support it. I'll go home right now and kick that parasite Leo to the curb. He'll never set foot in our house again." He gave Jessica a meaningful look. "Sweetheart, you're over Leo by now, aren't you?" Jessica instinctively touched her stomach, her hesitation melting into resolve. "Ethan, I love you." "Then it's settled," Arthur declared. The two of them, a father-daughter tag team, trying to trick me into raising another man's child? The nerve was astonishing. I tossed a stack of printed documents onto the desk. Arthur's face went white. It was all there, all the evidence of his crimes. Enough to put him away for life. I'd known all along that Leo wasn't just some innocent boy toy. As Jessica's assistant, he'd use her affection to gain access to these files, originally intending to use them as leverage against her if needed. He never had to. She fell into his arms so easily. But the Millers never treated him like a person, and in the end, their secrets became the knife in my hand. Jessica's gaze fell on the papers, and she gasped. Where did you get these? Why, from your dear husband, of course, I said, emphasizing the word husband with cruel pity. Arthur Miller's knees buckled, and he collapsed into a chair as if his bones had turned to jelly. Ethan, I'll divorce him immediately. Jessica pleaded. I was so immature before. I hurt the one I truly loved. It's always been you. Arthur, rallying, added, My boy, I'll pull some strings. She won't even have to wait for the mandatory cooling-off period. She can move in with you tomorrow. Watching their desperate, pathetic performance, I almost laughed. All right. What's past is past. We all make mistakes. We need to look to the future. Yes, exactly. Arthur nodded eagerly, like a bobblehead. Hearing the change in my tone, Jessica's eyes lit up with renewed hope. I tapped my fingers on the desk, then my voice turned to steel. Let's just call it an even 100 million. You give me another 100 million, and I'll give you back these files. What? The $100 million from the investment, plus another $100 million? Arthur Miller choked, sputtering as if he'd been punched in the gut. Jessica looked like she'd seen a ghost, the light in her eyes extinguished, replaced by a dull, hollow darkness. Of course, I added cheerfully, you could always refuse. We could take this to court. Under my friendly advice, Arthur Miller quietly transferred another $100 million. Once the money was confirmed, I handed over the files. After he confirmed there were no copies, his face twisted with hatred. You little punk, he snarled. I'll get you back for this. As I watched them leave, a truly cruel smile touched my lips. 5. That evening, the internet exploded. The entire contents of the USB drive, evidence of bribery, tax evasion, and fraudulent contracts in Miller Industries projects, were leaked online. The public devoured the details. The story went viral on Twitter and Reddit, and federal investigators launched an immediate inquiry. Within 2 hours, they had taken Arthur Miller into custody. On the live news feed, he was seen screaming as he was forced into a car. That bastard swore he didn't have a copy. I'll sue him. He still seemed full of fight, but at his age, once you enter the system, you rarely come out. The next morning, before I was even fully awake, Jessica was at my door. She fell to her knees, clinging to me, a picture of frailty. Ethan, please let my father go. I'm begging you. I'll do anything, she sobbed, bowing her head and slamming it against the floor again and again until her forehead was red and swollen. When she looked up and saw my impassive face, a tremor of fear ran through her. Ethan, I know you hate me. I regret everything, she whispered. But it happened. I don't know how to fix it, how to make you forgive me. She looked at me with pleading eyes, her voice utterly broken. Just tell me what to do. How can I make the anger go away? We can do whatever you want tonight. I was your first love, your high school sweetheart. You must still want me. She was rambling, trying to convince herself more than me. She was so certain this was all about revenge, that where there was hate, there must still be love. It was the reason she kept coming back. I was done with it. I'll do whatever I want. I set my voice flat. Aren't you afraid you'll have a miscarriage? Jessica froze, her body going rigid. She finally understood that I knew about the pregnancy. No, it's not like that. I only agreed to marry Leo because I felt sorry for him. I'll get rid of it. I'll get rid of it right now, and then we can be together, she cried, her face a mask of desperation. Ethan, please give me another chance. I messed up again. Enough, I said, my patience gone. I had nothing to do with the leak. You're barking up the wrong tree. I waved to my security staff to have her removed. A day later, the Millers finally figured out it was Veronica Thorne's doing. Whether the files came from me or Leo no longer mattered. The two families went to war. In a desperate move, Jessica even went live on Instagram, spinning a story about two women fighting over a man. She tearfully told her followers that Veronica had a crush on me and framed her family out of jealous spite. The internet wasn't buying it. You cheated with your assistant. Veronica should be thanking you, not framing you. So the bribery and tax evasion were fake? You reap what you sow. Veronica Thorne is a powerhouse. You think she needs to fight you for a man? She knows her own worth. Worse, old-timers started digging up the past. Arthur Miller screwed over Veronica's dad years ago. This is just karma. Yeah, back in the day Miller was ruthless. Stole the company while his partner was in prison. Isn't that right? Miller Industries used to be Thorne Consolidated decades ago. Seems like anyone who does business with the Millers gets burned. Look what happened to Ethan Sterling. Such a successful, handsome guy gets cheated on. Tragic. The comments were relentless. Jessica, humiliated, had to end the stream. After a thorough investigation, Arthur Miller's crimes were confirmed, and Veronica's father was posthumously exonerated. Multiple felony charges, bribery, massive tax evasion, fraud, smuggling, and perjury stuck. Arthur Miller was sentenced to life in prison. Jessica was also implicated and received a suspended sentence due to her pregnancy. Veronica and I jointly acquired the remnants of Miller Industries. At the press conference, I made a point to thank Leo Vance for his contribution. He went undercover for 3 years, enduring untold humiliation to expose the truth, I announced to the press. Now that Miller Industries has fallen, let's all raise a glass to Leo Vance. I drained my glass. A ripple of understanding went through the room. The headlines the next day praised him. Leo Vance, a corporate hero. The fall of their empire caused the Miller family to turn their fury on Jessica. You had Ethan Sterling, and you threw him away for that little parasite. You should be ashamed. You blind fool. You destroyed this family. You're a disgrace. Oh my God, Jessica, why don't you just go die? Even her own mother screamed that she was disowning her. They threw her out of the house. The next time I saw her was at a party. She burst in, disheveled and frantic, looking like a beggar. Her swollen belly was probably the only thing that had kept her from starving to death. She begged me to take her in, even as a maid. I'll do anything. Just let me stay near you. I don't need a title. You can keep me like a pet. I kicked her away from me, laughing. Jessica, you are pathologically desperate for me to raise this baby, aren't you? We had something once. Why are you so determined to screw over your ex? My friends roared with laughter, mocking her, telling her she got what she deserved for cheating. Jessica, who had been a princess her whole life, couldn't handle the humiliation. She snapped, starting to beat her own stomach with her fists. Shut up, she shrieked. I don't want to hear it. I just made a mistake any woman would make. Why won't you let it go? I hate you. I hate all of you. A trickle of blood ran down her leg. Her screaming intensified. Not wanting a death on my hands, I had her rushed to the hospital. I later heard she lost the baby. Her family didn't care. I hired a few security guards to watch over her, to make sure she didn't try anything stupid. Meanwhile, the Millers were hunting for Leo. A fallen dynasty still has claws, and finding one man isn't hard. But Leo was already in hiding. With $1 million, he could disappear for a long time. But I wasn't going to let him have it that easy. Tell Mark, I said in my phone one day that I'm in the mood for some fishing. Leo's parents received a phone call. Their son had made it big and wanted to bring them to the city to live in luxury. They were overjoyed. That day, the whole village heard the news, green with envy. His father packed a sack of homegrown vegetables. His mother packed his favorite sweet potato pies. They set off, full of happiness and pride. They were hit by a junker car just outside the Denver bus station. Both ended up in the ICU, with medical bills running over $20,000 a day. Leo might have been a snake, but he loved his parents. He had no choice but to stay by their side at the hospital, his $1 million draining away with terrifying speed. He came to me, kneeling, repenting for everything he had done. They say you don't punish a man's family. Mr. Sterling, I'm begging you, save my parents. I sighed and transferred him $3,000. The driver has already been arrested. I said softly, take this. It's not much, but you should use it to find your parents a nice burial plot. In that moment, the color drained from Leo's face. With his money gone, Leo had no choice but to go with Mark. They took him to a back alley clinic in Tijuana to sell a kidney. Lying on the operating table, his expression was blank like a soulless shell. Only a flicker of worry for his parents remained in his eyes, and then it was gone. It was the same day his parents were taken off life support. The Millers got a tip. They found Leo in Tijuana, grabbing him right as he was being wheeled out of the operating room. They bundled him up and took him away, unleashing all their pent-up rage on him. They locked him in a damp, dark basement denying him food and sleep. They beat him relentlessly, keeping him alive only with a nutrient drip. After 2 weeks, he was barely human, his eyes empty and vacant. When he learned his parents were dead, something inside him shattered. Leo went insane. Torturing a madman was no longer satisfying, so the Millers dumped him in a psychiatric hospital. I prepaid $7 million to the facility with a simple instruction for the director. Take good care of him, but under no circumstances is he to die. The director's face split into a grin. He assured me the task would be completed. They pumped Leo's body full of drugs, leaving him in a constant dull stupor. He lost control of his bodily functions. When he soiled himself, the orderlies would beat him. "You filthy animal. You do that again and you'll see what happens," one would shout as he walked away. Leo would just lie there, giggling to himself. One night, during a violent thunderstorm, the sound of rain lashing against the window kept him awake. In a daze, he felt something heavy climb onto his bed, pinning him down. Leo's eyes fluttered open. It was too dark to see clearly. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of lightning lit up the room. The bolt illuminated a face hovering over his, a face so pale and gaunt it looked like it was covered in corpse wax. It was the face of a ghost. Hee. A voice giggled. "Leo, my love, let's die together, okay?" Epilogue. Jessica's perspective, my marriage to Ethan was a perfect match. He was tall, handsome, brilliant, the ideal man for any woman. I liked him well enough, but he was so serious, so predictable. Then I hired a new assistant, a boy with a sweet face and innocent eyes. His name was Leo. He was so obedient. He'd nod at whatever I said and always call me Miss Miller with such reverence. It was adorable. His eyes were filled with worship. Everything about me fascinated him. It was an incredible boost to my ego. When I learned he came from a poor rural town, that he grew up poor, my heart ached for him. This sweet, lovely boy. How could I let him suffer? I had to take care of him. So I kept him by my side, even when it made Ethan angry. We fought about it constantly. Seeing Ethan jealous gave me a strange thrill. My parents told me to stop, not to risk my relationship with Ethan over someone so insignificant. But Leo was my boy. I couldn't let anyone hurt him. I couldn't forget the look in his teary eyes. It made my heart melt. But one night, things changed between us. The desperate look on his face. I couldn't say no. I got lost in the affair until Ethan found out and publicly humiliated me. Fine, let him. I still have my sweet boy. Ethan left the country, and the Sterlings cut us off. Suddenly, nothing went right for my family. We lost one major deal after another. My parents blamed me for everything, and they took it out on Leo, too. At first, I defended him fiercely. But as time went on, I started to see that he wasn't so special after all. He was clingy, but he was useless. He couldn't help me in my career. In fact, he usually made things worse. I finally had him quit so he could just stay home and be with me. But he was so weak, so passive. He couldn't even give me the emotional validation I craved. Useless in business, useless in life. I think I stopped loving him then. I started thinking about Ethan, wondering how he was doing overseas. I regretted hurting him. When I heard he was coming back, I was so happy. It had to be fate. My father agreed. This time, I would win him back, because I really did love him. I forced Leo to kneel before him. I apologized to him. Ethan was cold, but I saw something in his eyes, a flicker of an old emotion. I thought it was longing. I was wrong. He destroyed everything I had. He sent my father to prison. I was left homeless, eating out of trash cans. I told myself I just had to survive just long enough to find him again. But our last meeting, it broke me. I lost the baby. I wanted to die, but some men saved me. They smiled so kindly. I thought they were my salvation. They were animals. My life became a living hell. Why wouldn't God just let me die? Oh, then I remember my sweet boy. Now, I heard he was in a hospital. How could he be so lucky while I was left to rot? No, that's not fair. I have to take him with me. He'll be my sweet boy, forever and ever. Epilogue. Arthur Miller's perspective of my daughter is a curse. I lived like a king my whole life, only to end up rotting in prison in my old age. All because of that worthless girl. She had a prince and threw him away for a pauper. The food in here isn't bad, I guess. I've even put on a few pounds. But there's this one guy. He's always watching me. He has this big mustache, in for some kind of sex offense, I heard. The weird thing is, he's always carrying around a bar of soap, and he keeps dropping it, asking people to pick it up for him. Yeah, I need to stay far away from that guy.